Hello there gang, DD DeVere here. We're going to have a past blast, which we're playing a little bit of Shadowman. So let's see what we get, shall we, in the way of options. You have some basic settings there for your sound and music. You also have some detail settings for your graphics. There is a outside exterior launcher for setting your resolutions and some of the more advanced settings. As well as the most important ones, configure your controls and configure your mouse. And you will definitely want to put a bit of time in here trying to make these controls a little bit more modern. I'll explain from why that is inside the game when we get started. Mouse configurations, not so important. We'll just see why that is also shortly. So what I shall do is I shall start a new game and I shall use the magic of video editing to jump the intros. It's quite large. So I shall see you in there.
Now where the hell is that church?
So we take the character of Mike Leroy, I'm not quite sure it's 100% of his pronunciation. A voodoo warrior of sorts, but at the moment we're still in the mortal realm. So we are a mortal person. It's when we get to dead side, we become the undead voodoo warrior. The Shadowman. So the graphics are definitely kind of showing their age a bit. This was of course developed by Acclaim Studios and published by Acclaim Entertainment back in 1999. It was available for the PC, the Dreamcast, this N64 and the PlayStation 1. But it definitely, by today's standards, it definitely looks kind of 1999. It's very much a typical third-person shooter. A lot of action and puzzle, platforming type elements as well. The levels are certainly quite expansive, quite wide looking. I mean, it's not terrible. The graphics do a fairly good job of implying of what they are, even if they don't look stunning. They do a good job of making you feel like you're in a weird, otherworldly dead zone when we finally get there. But the first area of this game really hasn't aged well is its controls. Now we'll have a proper in-depth look at them in just a moment when we get our gear. This was of course based off a character in a comic book series, this story, and it was quite dark and adult for its time. This is a time when sort of things like Crash Bandicoot were the mainstay of gaming and all those kind of things. And still with lots of Marios and Sonics. So this was a much darker sort of horror game with a lot of good grim moments and adult themes going on. So it's really its big selling point. And it's quite an expansive game. If you want to go around looking for all the various collectibles, these things here, these are the K-Dos. As you see bottom right, there's our health indicator. And there's obviously the bright red chunks are our health. If you collect enough of those, you can increase your health meter.
Made it.
So it's worth exploring around and collecting things. And this is the main meat and veg of the game here.
Nettie?
Hey there, Mike. Glad you could make it.
How could I refuse your offer? How could I ever refuse you, Agneta?
You can't. I'm simply irresistible. I hope you read the file I gave you, and read it real well. Between the lines, you'll find the signs.
You got my stuff?
Come on in, honey.
You know, on the way over here, I got to thinking about these dark souls. If they're so damn dangerous, why didn't the ancients just destroy them?
Because that's impossible. Their power is their immortality. If evil ever manages to implant these immortal souls into its monstrous slaves, can you imagine the carnage an immortal, unbeatable army would bring to the earth? That's apocalypse, Shadowman. That's the end.
Okay, so I really gotta get to the Dark Souls before the bad guy. I understand that, but where do I find them?
In Govi. Each Govi has been sealed by the most powerful voodoo. Not even the greatest Bokor or Mambo can open them to release the dark soul within. Believe me, I've tried. but a Shadowman, or something even more powerful, just might be able to do it. Release the dark soul and take it into yourself. But be warned, the dark souls are a pure and ancient evil and possess a power that should not be abused.
Okay. Let's just get this thing over with. You got my stuff?
Right here.
A real scare, Mike.
Jesus, Luke! He's alive! Alive and in pain. I gotta help him.
He's dead, Mike. You know that.
I know, but I saw.
It's understandable that you still have strong feelings for your brother. That's why the bear works for you, connecting you to Deadside. Use it now, Mike. Go Deadside and find Jaunty. He's waiting for you at the Marrow Gates. He's got something to show you.
Okay.
And Mike,
Yeah?
if you need me, I'll be here. Now, go see Jaunty and get them dark souls.
Let's just collect a few quick little bits. And then we'll have a look at the controls, because, yeah, they have not aged well, in all honesty. Go. So I've bound my inventory to my tab key. So we have a book here. There's a fair bit of reading if you want to go through it. It does quite a lot of lore in this game. But for now, we shouldn't worry about it. We have our bear. That's what allows us to teleport between the realms and see what collectibles are in each area. And we shall look at that just shortly. We shall use that. But here's our first firearm, our basic pistol, a handgun. So I've bound my left hand to Z and my right hand to X. So if I press Z now, so my left hand and my left mouse button fires. If we go back, unequip it with Z, and then re-equip it with X, as we now see it's on our right hand. Our right mouse button becomes the fire button. So I shall leave it in my left, because you generally use this weapon more than most. There is a pretty good range of weapons in game, in fairness. Let's just get on to the dead world, or dead side. As you come across new zones, you'll be able to teleport directly to those places.
I, the Lord of Deadside, Shadowborn at the confluence of worlds to walk between. Lifeside is without the meaning that my partly living possesses here in Deadside, where the darkness is manifest at the edges of reason. As a god, I step forth upon the writhing, suppurating surface of the Deadside serpent. What sleep is here? What dreams there are in the unctuous coilings of the snake's mortal shuffling. Weapon in my hand, the arcing death blow at the end of all things. The horror, I embrace it.
Short and pithy sentences. These are your wailers and shiverers. These ones here at the beginning don't attack, but that'll change shortly enough, and they will become more of a nuisance. So let's just talk to Jaunty over here, who we've got to meet. But yeah, the graphics do a fairly good job of making you feel like in a bizarre otherworldly area, and that's Jaunty.
Hello there, Michael. How's that treating you?
Jaunty, kindly refer to me as Shadowman. Michael Leroy has no place here in Deadside.
Whatever, Mick. It's good to see you again. Seems like simply ages since I last set me eyes on your happy, smiling mug.
The feeling's mutual.
I suppose you've been away dallying with the old battle axe, giving her one with some of that righteous voodoo so she can stay forever young?
Something like that.
She's been filling your head with her fated pillow talk again, I'll bet. Doomsday in an army giddy until you're drunk with the stuff.
She did happen to mention a certain prophetic dream she's been having.
Did she now? Well, for once I think the owl witch might be right. See that bloody big black tower yonder?
How could I miss it?
Well, old Bruegel, the medieval painter blokey, was just telling me the other day that he thought it looked remarkably like a picture he once did.
Is that Peter Bruegel?
No, Seamus, his distant Irish cousin. Anyways, he was quite shocked, so he was, at the terrible mess that bloody thing's making. appearing out of nowhere and tearing its way through the place like there's no tomorrow. Which, given what Nettie's saying, might not be too far from the truth.
Any idea what's going on in there?
Nope, and I shan't be knocking on the front door to find out neither. All I'll say is, if there's something wicked heading this way, it'll be coming from in there.
Nettie mentioned the Dark Souls. Can you tell me any more about them?
I'm afraid I'll have to reply in the negative again, Michael. Suffice it to say, Nettie's told me that they're bloody powerful, well nigh indestructible, and shouldn't fall into the wrong hands.
Any idea where they might be?
What am I, a Dark Soul travel guide now? I suppose you could try all of the ancient sacred places down amongst the whalers and shiverers. We just hope that none of them souls have ended up in that filthy big black tower.
From what Nettie was saying, some of them already have, which is all the more reason for me to be pushing on. Open the gates, Jaunty.
Places to go, people to see, eh, Michael?
Just open the gates, Jaunty.
Did I ever tell you about the time me and Attila the Hun were playing skittles with the guillotine heads of the French aristocracy?
Jaunty.
All right, keep your bloody hair on. Which, looking at your shining bonds, may prove to be rather difficult. Open sesame! And if you be wanting to pop by and chat a while, I'll still be here. It's just a shame we can't share a drap of the hard stuff together by a roaring peat fire.
I don't drink with snakes.
There's also an elements of comedy in here as well. Light relief. At least the voice acting is pretty good throughout. So we're about to see the combat combined with these rather cumbersome controls, because at the moment... Oh, there's our first enemy. Let's just deal with him. There is a combat lock-on with the control key, but it's unreliable to say the least. It's often very short range. But yeah, I'm using the A and D is to actually turn at the character, and Q and E for strafes, with space to jump, and then C for sort of like a combat roll, which needs to be used with your strafes. It's yeah, very frustrating at times. Let's just try and clear a few of these up. So there, sometimes it'll lock on from a distance or weird angles. Other times it won't. So now these have, for whatever reason, have turned hostile. Just clear a few of these up quickly. So there, locked on all right. That was fine. Make life easier to clear a few of these out. One good thing is when you do clear an area out, it stays cleared out until you load back in to that area. So it's often a good idea to go through, clear a lot of enemies out, then go exploring and collecting, because there is a lot of platforming elements in this game. A lot of areas are currently locked off, and you'll be allowed to, as you get different pickups and power-ups throughout the game, you'll be able to access those different areas. Oh, see there, how the jump is... Unlike modern games where a spacebar basically does everything to do with rappelling, vaulting, jumping, here it's just literally jump and then you use your arrow, your movement keys to climb up ledges. The amount of times you'll forget in the middle of a heated combat, you'll hang on to a ledge and then jump forward, and without thinking you'll instinctively hit the spacebar and launch yourself off. Meaning all the progress you've made has been undone. Seems to have been hammered from some of those down there. New enemy type any moment now. I'm going to ignore, because these ones can pop you on your backside pretty quick in a couple of hits. Oh, see there, that's, I mean, you instinctively hit the spacebar to climb up. Just want to get weaving to get the game proper. So yeah, the combat is certainly frustrating, especially because how unreliable it is. Many of them will have the enemy types, and there's a good range of enemy types in the game as you play through, good differing amounts. Oops, see they're overturned because Lacey can't follow me in here. Yeah, there is a good variety of enemies, many of which have projectiles, some are flying. This wacky combat lock-on. I think they was expecting more people to be playing this on a console, where maybe the lock-on's a bit more reliable than it is on the PC. So definitely tends to be a lot more frustrating. As you see, it also likes to spam enemies in on top of you or drops them behind you when you're in tight areas. So the combat is certainly one area where it really has not aged well. Let's try and mix it all in with the rolls and the jumps and so there, this is a, you'll notice this ring around the door matches the ring I have there in my power bar.
I'm the Lord of Deadside.
So we're still in Deadside at the moment. Of course, later on you'll get into the actual tower we were talking about.
Looks like someone left me a note.
You also notice the teddy bears flashed up briefly there. This is now another teleport area where we can teleport to if we wanted to directly. Because these levels are really quite big and sprawling, often with multiple paths and ways to go through. I mean, they're linear to a degree, admittedly.
Got it.
See here now, you'll see that one, this door has a purple chunk on it. My power indicator does not, so if I try to open it, it's a no-go. We need to get our first Dark Soul. So we've collected our first Dark Soul.
Dark Souls. I embrace it. Great.
Those little yellow ones are your power, your magical power for your magical weapons, so you can dual wield later on. And yeah, there is a fairly decent selection of weapon types, both magical and earthbound shotguns and whatnot. But now, because we have a power indicator, we actually have a purple chunk. If we can now explore deeper into this. So that's how it controls the flow of the game. That and there's other power-ups you get, which will let you get to areas you can't get to at the moment. See, that one has 2 chunks. Oh, that was our sniper view, which I didn't explain, the shift button. This is what makes them using the mouse a bit awkward.
Unsalvaged souls that drift beyond the narrow gates for an eternity of waiting. This infinite limbo, this wasteland, this untamed, unnatural afterbirth I command with my endless darkness. What ineffable secrets are whispered within the paths of shadow? What red-edge realities rising bleak above the blasted skyline? Deadwing, Duppy, Zombie Mother. This voodoo lord outlasts them all.
Because I can turn with the mouse, I'm just doing that here now. You only have 3 settings of sensitivity settings, low, intermediate and high. So with the sniper mode, it allows you to be a bit more accurate. And that is quite twitchy. You know, I've got it on the intermediate. So basically, for the most part, you're going to be using your keyboard to control mic here, and your mouse to do the sniping, because, as I said, with the combat lock-on being so bloody ropey and unreliable, especially when you get flying enemies, you have to sort of quick zip in, fire a few shots at them, zip out, move along. Oh, there's a lot of tap dancing needed combat-wise. So now, see, he's popped up there. He can fire at me, but I can't fire at him because my lock-on won't pick him up at that distance. There is a good variety of enemy types in the game itself, especially later on when you get into the actual tower that was mentioned earlier. Oh, we didn't get to finish. Oh, now I'm swimming. Now, because it's a dead side, you don't have to worry about drowning at least. Try and lock on here and kill these fish. And him shooting at me. You have to hold spacebar to actually swim forward, and your direction keys just sort of set your depth and... Oh, get out! Out! Oh, yeah, the swimming is one area. This game is really absolutely frustrating. The game doesn't do a lot of hand-holding either. It just does not feel natural. It's trying... Oh, so now see, he can shoot me that distance. I can't shoot him. Come on, get out, you idiot. So we're nearly dead anyway. I'll let him finish me off. We'll conclude our dealings here. It's just about... It was just reset me to a checkpoint anyway, so it's not a problem. That is just the biggest thing that kills this game. So it's got some really big... So luckily it'll reset me back to where we were for the checkpoint. Big expansive levels, lots of platforming around to do for collecting all the K-Doos and the Dark Souls, which obviously you want to collect all your Dark Souls. Very little hand holding. No compasses or anything like that you'd expect. I know where does this one pop up from? So there, I can't lock onto him from that distance. I might not be able to lock onto him from the... So try and use the sniper view. You can't strafe or move around in this view, by the way. You have to stand still. Now let's see, can you lock on him now? Is that close? There we go. Big expansive levels to go around exploring. And then, yeah, the graphics do show their age. They do a good job of making you feel like you're in a bizarre other world, especially the tower. Oh, he's there, he's still in. Right, lock on, see there, just lock on. So unreliable. Good selection of weapons, magical wands, and your standard weapons. Good variety of monster types. But it's just that combat is so frustrating. The swimming especially so. You kind of do get used to it later in game, but it's like here, trying to snipe all these fish out before you go in swimming is a good idea, but you're spending a lot of time there doing it. And there's a few more frustrations. How can we get out? Thank you. That's what I was trying to do earlier. The lack of hand-holding. Basically, the aim of the game is to collect as many of those Dark Souls as you can to increase your power. You have to collect a minimum, I think, is of 68. You also have the 5 sub-boss battles and your main boss battle at the end to complete the game. So the very first time you come across the boss, which you can come to quite soon as it goes, the first mini boss battle, you won't be able to beat him, but he won't give you an audio clue saying, this guy's thrashing me, I need to do something else. You'll basically take a good few beatings having a go before you think, right, there's something missing here. And what you need to do is go back and see Nettie at the church, and then she'll tell you can't beat him because you need this specific item to make it nighttime all the time, because Mike's powers only work when it's night or in the darkness of Deadworld. None of that's made particularly clear. There's a lot of moments like that in the game where a few more audio clues would have helped, in all honesty. But the biggest frustration in this game really is the controls and the tap dancing with the ropey combat system. So trying to lock onto things or aim at things. It will lead to a lot of deaths that you might not otherwise have, even when you get some of the more exotic magic weaponries or the shotguns and things later on. They help, for sure. But make sure you can't... If you're dual wielding, make sure to put your weapons away before you start doing any platforming bits, because obviously you can't grab on if you've got weapons in your hand, if you have both hands. A modern game today would automatically put them away for you. You actually have to do it manually. There's things like that. So there is a lot of game here. Big, expansive levels, some really creative designs on them, especially if you're after collecting things up. The tower that you get into later is particularly impressive. Some quite impressive enemy designs. It's quite advanced for its day, horror game wise. There wasn't a lot else out in the market when this was released. Good voice acting, great audio. Graphics, yeah, they're definitely rough by today's standards, but they do an effective enough job of making you think you're in this bizarre otherworldly areas. But it's just how much patience you've got for the controls. Maybe if I was to try something like Joy to Key and set up a controller with it, it might be a lot more smoother. I think that was probably they were imagining more people were going to be playing it like that than they were. No, I was going to be playing it on the PC with mouse and keyboard. So that might make things more better. But it's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. So I think we'll conclude our dealings here, gang. Just, you know, you've got to have a bit of patience and be willing to kite it out with the combat is really the biggest issue. That and the complete lack of guidance. But if you like exploring and collecting things, this is definitely the game for you. It's trying to do a lot for its time. With sort of darker adult themes as well as the horror settings. So it's definitely a cult classic for a reason. So anyway, gang, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I hope you found it useful and entertaining in some way. And as ever, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to let me know you're alive. And I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.